Hello everyone and welcome to Inclusive Employer Panel event September 2021. My name is Merlin Tarizadeh and I'm WorkBC job developer at North Vancouver. And with my colleague Janice Huber, we'll be hosting this event today. I would like to share the agenda of the session with you. First of all, we will announce the Inclusive Workplace Appreciation Award 2021 nominees. And after that, I will review very briefly some of WorkBC services for the employers. And we will be honored to introduce our today's fantastic panelists and our awesome moderator. And we will start the panel discussion. And at the end, we will have the Q&A session. Now I would like to announce Inclusive Workplace Appreciation Awards 2021 nominees. These fantastic employers have been actively hired people with disability, and in some cases they have been proactively doing that by approaching our WorkBC centers and asking for our help and support in hiring people with disability and diversify their workforce and make the most of this win-win situation. The nominees are Fairmont Hotels, Gabby and Jules Bakery, Dunstow's Barbecue and Parts, Console Designs Corporation, Loblaws, Natural Factors, North Shore Disability Resource Center, Home Natural Factor Food Market, President's Group, Starbucks, Tri-City Cleaning, Vancouver Arts Department, and Western Sky Book. In the next slides, we will review some of WorkBC services for the employers. And if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer your questions at the end of the event. So what is WorkBC? If you're not familiar with WorkBC, we will go into more details in our next slide. WorkBC is a not-for-profit fee, it means free of charge program, funded by the Government of Canada and the Province of British Columbia. WorkBC employment services include specialized workshops and support for immigrants, youth, Indigenous people, persons francophone, persons with disabilities, survivors of violence and abuse, older workers, and women returning to work after an absence. Where our centers are located? Actually, we have multiple locations all over beautiful British Columbia, but we have highlighted some of them in next slides. There is one location located at North Vancouver, Percy Street. The other one, downtown Vancouver, Broader Street. And our Vancouver Midtown is located at West Broadway, and also our Cambie location at Cambie Street. Also, we have multiple locations at Tri-City, Port Moody at Bruce Street, Coquitlam, Lincoln Avenue, and our location at Port Coquitlam is located at Shaughnessy Street. Okay, what are these services which are provided for the employers? We have highlighted a couple of them, such as job carving, job matching, providing assistive devices, equipment, and technology, wage subsidy, unpaid work experience, job coaching, community attachment, which provides professional volunteers for the employers, and job start, if you hire someone and they need to buy special tools or clothes or have a special certificate like first aid, superhose, waivers, and alike, we will be providing those services for you, and also stock. Among these services, I would like to go more in depth in wage subsidy, which is financial-wise fantastic help to the employers that we have been working with. The wage subsidy allows employers to hire job-ready candidates who need work experience and skills enhancement. It also provides financial support to employers who hire and train eligible candidates, covering up to 85% of new employee wage for up to 78 weeks. And you know, that's a huge amount of money. and also post-placement support, such as job coaching and resolving employment issues. Also, another service is unpaid work experience, which is a short-term work experience opportunity, allowing our clients to explore interest, occupational choices, and enhance their skills. If you have any further questions, you can contact my colleagues, Louise Roberts, lead job developer at WorkBC Tri-City, and Harry Singh, job developer, WorkBC Center, Vancouver South. Now I will be delighted to actually introduce our gorgeous panelists who will discuss the best practices in hiring people with disability and being an inspiration for all of us. And our panelists are Niki LaFemina from Fairmont Hotel Vancouver, Ristov from Factors Group of Companies, and Micaela Evans from President's Group. And our incredible moderator for today is Nate Toews from Nail Aspire Society. Now I will stop sharing my screen and I will hand it over to Nail. Thank you so much.
Good morning good afternoon, and thank you for that. I really appreciate the warm welcome and the kind words, and we're certainly excited to be here. I'm Nate Toews with the Neil Squire Society and the marketing manager for the WorkBC Assistive Technology Services Program in British Columbia, and we work closely with the 102 WorkBC offices around the province and employers and people with barriers to employment and job search related activities. I'm super pleased today to have our three panelists with me. Micaela Evans is the marketing and communications specialist at the President's Group. President's Group is a network of 25 change-driven BC business leaders who are champions for more accessible, inclusive workplaces. In her role, Micaela handles the group's external communications, marketing, and social media, and also oversees the community of accessible employers. This community is open to businesses of all sizes and at all stages of their journey towards becoming an inclusive employer, offering free one-on-one support, helpful resources and events, and an online learning platform. And I know they've recently just updated their accessible website so everybody can take part and learn from this incredible resource. Micaela's work pairs her lived experience as a physically disabled professional and wheelchair user with her passion for equitable community building. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Gender, Sexuality and Women's Studies, Indigenous Studies, and Communications with SFU, and I couldn't be more proud to share the Zoom stage with Micaela today. We also have Niki LaFemina, I'm so sorry, Director and Talent of Culture with Fairmont Hotel Vancouver. Reporting to the General Manager, Niki will lead and oversee the day-to-day operation of the Talent and Culture Department, as well as play a critical role in implementation of the hotel's talent and culture strategy by identifying organizational needs and developing aligned solutions and strategies. She will promote positive and colleague relations by creating an environment that encourages open communication, trust, and mutual respect. Niki brings a host of experience with 13 years of hospitality experience in this role, beginning in her career as a manager for Blue Martini Lounge in Las Vegas, Nevada. In 2011, Niki joined Fairmont Hotels as a leadership development program participant in the rooms division at the Fairmont in Washington, DC. Niki holds a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Administration from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and a Master's Certificate in Human Resources from Cornell University. And Niki also held the designation as a Certified Professional in Human Resources in the United States from 2017 to 2020, and is currently studying for her certification as a Chartered Professional in Human Resources in Canada. And please join us in congratulating Niki on her new appointment and wishing her continued success, and super glad she's with us on the panel today. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Nada, as the Supervisor of Talent and Acquisition, Nada is responsible for leading a team of 7 talent acquisition specialists and providing exceptional levels of service and providing a positive experience to our hiring managers and candidates. She leads processes, activities, and strategies that ensure a pipeline of high quality candidates, which is obviously key for any organization. She responds quickly to the staffing needs of Factors group of companies, which includes multiple lines of business and a wide range of departments within that organization. With 10 plus years of staffing agency and leadership experience, Nada combines her passions of people management, project management, and recruitment. She draws from previous experience with employers such as eBay, Randstad, and Apple One. Managing day-to-day operations of the team is the principal aspect of her role, developing reports, data, and insight to develop performance dashboards and continuously improve service, which we all know is key to the success of any organization. She supports employer branding, communications, and build relationships with partners and third parties. At the core of her responsibilities is attracting and selecting employees while being a key driver in Factors group of companies' 7 core values. And what an amazing panel we have today, and I'm pleased to be your moderator. Let's start, Micaela. Could you share with us a little bit of what the President's Group is doing and how you bring value to not only employers, but people with disabilities and just the community in general in this very, very important conversation today?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. The President's Group was initially formed in 2013. And as Nate said, it's a board of 25 business leaders from all sectors and from around the province. Currently, we represent about 50,000 individuals across BC, and at the end of the month, we'll be releasing our Pledge to Measure data about the representation of employees with disabilities in those 50,000 employees. The group also plays an advisory role to the BC Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. Sorry, I got muted. They play an advisory role to the minister, and some of the minister and his colleagues come to the President's Group meetings quarterly, where the business leaders have the opportunity to support one another and discuss any challenges they may be facing and really lend a peer-to-peer hand to each other. And then the community of accessible employers that Nate mentioned as well is open and free to any employers in BC. So a business can join, whether it's just starting as a small business and it's maybe just 2 people starting out, or if it's a large business that's taking on diversity inclusion either for the first time or further along in their journey. Companies can join and access direct support, as well as all of our resources on our website, and come to events and networking opportunities like this as well. And as Nate mentioned as well, our website was just redone. So it is fully accessible and full of lots of updated content from employers, some who might be here today, and has everything from success stories of employees who've been with their companies for many years to things like how to create an accessible PowerPoint, or how to ensure that your recruitment strategy is as accessible as possible for all candidates. If anyone has questions or would like to join our community, I would be happy to have a conversation about that with anyone.
That's brilliant, Micaela. You seem to know it inside out and backwards and forwards. You've probably been there a little while, I guess.
Yeah, I've been here for about 2 years now.
That's awesome. Please do put the President's Group Accessible Employers web link in the chat sure. and your email address if you don't mind, and that'd be a great way for people to reach out. So, hey, folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you to just close your eyes for a sec. We're going to pretend we're in person. It's kind of a fireside chat, and we're just having a conversation about inclusive employment. And there's palm trees outside for afterwards. Let's just pretend that, okay? No, seriously. So really what we're gonna do is just a couple questions I have, and we're gonna create some discussion with Niki, Nada, and Micaela is gonna chime in on some of the ones where she brings her level of expertise from the President's Group. So Niki, my first question for you at Fairmont Hotel, as it relates to the journey your organization that has had with inclusive employment, tell us what surprised you in this journey of inclusion as it relates to hiring people with disabilities. What were some of the things you didn't expect to see that were maybe a bit of a surprise?
Great question, and thanks for having me. Two things. One, how easy it is to accommodate, and two, how important education is. In my last property, we were fortunate enough to be in a city where we had a large deaf community and had some amazing candidates and applicants. And I think the team was at first a little bit nervous about how to accommodate them properly in the workplace, make sure they feel safe, comfortable, and welcome. And all it really took was just a sit-down conversation to better understand their needs and how we can help them succeed and thrive in the workplace. And within a couple of weeks, we had everything in place in terms of accommodation. And we were, so amazingly surprised at how easy the process was and how many resources were available. So, initially, I think it can start when you're dealing with something that's maybe an unknown to you as an employer. That it could be a little bit scary at first because you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. But really it starts with a conversation and an understanding, and everyone is just so open and wonderful. And it led to an incredible employment relationship.
I really love how you started there, because that's the bingo answer right there. Is in the disability community today, it's nothing about us without us. And the best way to learn about how accommodating somebody with a disability is ask them first. They may absolutely have the answers and the solutions and know about the technology they need. Nada, with natural factors, same question to you. If anything, what did surprise you in this journey of inclusion as you've hired people with disabilities and barriers in the workplace?
Thanks, Nate, and thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share our experience. So what I would say, and we're at the beginning of our journey, so I expect a lot of surprises upcoming as well, but where we're at right now, the most surprising thing that I think we benefited from is the ripple effect of bringing people into the organization and having them affect our current staff, helping staff to level up with their own skills so they can support and train and educate these people, create a positive experience and environment, but then also improve their own careers and improve their own knowledge. And it really, I think, impacts the energy in the environment and everybody around the people that we're hiring, who we're accommodating. And while we're accommodating them, they're accommodating us. And so it really is a partnership. And I think it's been a really surprising experience for not only leadership at our company, but also staff. So it really is something that affects absolutely everybody in the workplace.
Oh my God, I can't get my thing done.
We can hear you.
Oh my.
You're muted, Nate.
You're muted again.
Mute.
There you are.
Nate, you're muted. Oh, you don't have control over that.
No, I can't. Nothing's working. I'm frozen.
Here we go.
I think
you're good
back.
now.
Yeah, we can
you hear me now?
I think you're back. Yeah.
Okay, my thing shows muted on the screen. Oh my goodness. Talk about a panic.
Oh, I bet.
All right. For those in the audience today, there's a great study done in the United States with Walgreens. I encourage you to look at that. And one of the key things Nada said was how critical management is, to this process. And it isn't the top manager, the person in the corner office. It's every level of management that's working with people. So through this process, was there one number one misnomer in the thing that in the process of doing this that you uncovered where, that's kind of one of the, the magic sauce? Was there anything like that for either of your organizations? Nada, let's start with you.
I think there was a perception from our staff who are involved in our buddy system and provide support and training and development all the way up to leadership that accommodation would mean having to acquire skills that they didn't already have. And I think that the experience has really provided an opportunity to realize that we inherently have a lot of the skills already required to provide a great experience. And it's really just drawing attention to it and providing the right language to articulate things in a way that is professional and accepted in the workplace. But beyond some basic support and training through our partners at WorkBC and also just our internal staff, I think is the realization of, I can do this, and easily we can hire these people now. We don't have to wait. It's not a long-term plan that needs to be developed. I think really encouraged us to consider this as a sourcing option that isn't short-term. It has nothing to do with the challenge in the market right now. It has more to do with the benefit that it provides everybody and can be considered a strategy for long-term. So right. I think it's really just shifting that mentality and helping employees to share that experience internally so it spreads throughout the organization from department to department. So exciting to see how easy we can shift and change and be malleable to this.
It's growth, right? It's growth. Yep. Niki, how about you?
Yeah, in terms of a misnomer, I think one of our funny learning lessons is at first, trying to be PC and say the right thing. Is actually, you could in turn be saying, or calling someone, referring to someone in a term that they actually don't prefer. And just going back to the candidate that we had who was deaf, and we were trying to understand the appropriate way to address her, the appropriate way to call her. And she said, I'm not hearing impaired. I do not consider myself impaired. I'm deaf, and I'm proud of that. And I think that, through this learning and through this cultural awareness where you're, working with people with disabilities, it's not about the disability, it's about the ability. And they are very able-bodied. And I think the last thing that, that they, especially her, she wanted to hear is, I'm not impaired. This, and what we learned through that whole great conversation was she's so incredibly able. And that was just, one thing on a piece of paper that, it doesn't really define her as a person and what she's capable of doing.
Right. Yeah. Who cares what you can't do? Let's focus on where your abilities and passions lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Micaela, from the aspect of the President's Group, what is a common misnomer that you've helped educate employers large and small about? Is it a resource that you're able to point them to? What would you say on that topic?
I think we hear a lot that people are worried about accommodations, as I think was already touched on a little. People seem to think they're very expensive or that they take a lot of work to implement. And while it can be really great to have an accommodations policy set in stone, oftentimes they're really simple adjustments that don't cost anything or cost a very small amount. And if they do cost something, there are supports to ensure that that cost doesn't fall on a small business owner or an entrepreneur themselves or things like that. Small Business BC has a really great grant out right now that all small business owners can apply to. And that's not even directly tied to an employee. So if someone wants to install an automatic door or they want to ensure that their HR policies are inclusive, they can apply that money to something organizationally to prepare for inclusive hiring.
Yeah, and they can get up to $1,000 grant to help with these modifications, right?
Yeah, and so that's a really great grant.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a perfect segue into some of the work I do, working with the Neil Squire Society and the WorkBC Assistive Technology Services Program. So for the folks out there, through the WorkBC Assistive Technology Services Program, there is funding available to help access assistive technologies for staff members that have a disability or barrier. I will put my email address in the chat so people can access more information. We do run a webinar every Wednesday from 12:30 to 1 that provides a tremendous amount of detail on that. So back to the questions. Did you have a champion in the office, Niki? Was there somebody who was like, we can do this. I'm going to show you how. I don't care if I don't have all the answers. We'll find them and we'll work through it. Who was that champion, Niki? Was it you?
Oh, I wish I could take credit for that. No, you know what? It's I'm so happy to be able to say this, but it came from the top. Our CEO of North and Central America for Accor, which is the parent company, Fairmont is just one brand within that hotel company. Heather McCrory, she's a huge driver for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And, you know, a few years ago, it's always been one of our committees throughout our organization. At every hotel that you go to, you're going to have committees for your service, you're going to have committees for sustainability, and you're going to have committees for diversity, equity, inclusion. But this really, like, especially with all the events after the past couple of years, it's become a pillar for us and who we are and what we represent in our culture. And so she's been the driver, but really it's been, you know, the hotels and the employees that are just rising to the occasion and sharing, this is how I relate to this pillar. This is my experience. This is my family. This is how I'm welcome in this community. So it's kind of, the message came from the top, but it's really just, shared throughout the organization and so important to all of us. And I think, what more could you ask for than just having a place where everyone's championing, welcoming all people, regardless of age, race, disability, et cetera, et cetera. So it's wonderful.
For those that are new to this or on the fence or here to get educated, it doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter if it comes from the top down. It doesn't matter if you, by happenstance, hire a person with a disability and then you learn how fantastic they are. Many organizations will start small, start slow. That's okay. They might pick a specific department. And then from there, if it's successful, and often it is, but remember, when you hire somebody with a disability, they're a person, just like the quote unquote able-bodied person is. And did every able-bodied hire you make work out? No, probably not. And people with a disability, there's no guarantee, but there's a high level of success. And we have many studies, again, that you can access through the President's Group website that shows that it's good for business. It's a smart business decision. It's not charity. This is not about charity. This is about finding quality, talented individuals that can do the job, right? Now, you had mentioned that you have worked with a service provider. Nada, Niki, have you guys worked with any service providers in an intentional way where they've helped you to recruit people with barriers or disabilities into your workforce?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So we had a great class where we worked with a provider who helped us out with a culture training and to better understand the culture behind a specific disability. And most recently, just on the topic of inclusion, we worked for this incredible organization called Hospitable Me. And it's about diversity and inclusion in the hospitality business specifically, which is so interesting, especially with, I noticed a few of us have our pronouns on our names and what that means and what that symbolizes. So it's just a great organization that we brought in and to educate us on the power of pronouns and what that means and symbolizes. So, and I know yesterday you were speaking about a ton of great resources, and I know Nada and Micaela, you both just have a lot of resources as well.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into for the employers out there. There are tons of resources out there. There's organizations that'll help you hire somebody on the autism spectrum. There's organizations out there that'll help you hire people with physical disabilities, like the Neil Squire Society. There's organizations that'll help you hire people on with developmental disabilities. There's so many great organizations that can help fill a whole variety of different roles. Now, I know folks were having some technical difficulties. I can see the little thumbnails, but I've lost the big picture, so bear with us. I think Zoom's busy today. Nada, can you share some of the best practices that your organization has gleaned and learned from the process? Because it's not a straight line, right? It's like our life. Our life is not a straight line. It goes up, it goes down. It's kind of like the stock market, right? We have good days, we have not so good days. Tell me about some of the best practices that your company employs now from this journey.
I think one change that I've seen that's been truly impactful in the process is looking at the candidate's ability before looking at the job description, before looking at the need or the gap that needs to be filled, looking at what the person can offer and seeing, you know, where we could possibly find a home for that person, and setting them up for success by ensuring that we're having the right discussions before we engage them in conversations. So from the initial step of the process, they're feeling welcome and they're feeling comfortable in talking about their abilities. And, you know, moving into setting up the plan for training and engaging staff at all levels to support. So really being pointed about that and creating that opportunity to be prepared. So when the person arrives, that it's you know, an onboarding process like everybody experiences. You know, I think we've all recognized how important onboarding is in retaining staff and attracting and getting referrals and things like that. And so we're very engaged at Factors in ensuring that the onboarding experience is easy. So if it means we have to revise our process and, you know, provide more handholding or support so that this person can get through that bulk of paperwork, et cetera, that we put those resources aside in anticipation and make that a simple and streamlined process. And then beyond that, you know, stepping up our ability to get feedback from the employee as well as the managers. And right now our primary, you know, resource is WorkBC. So maintaining that relationship and having the feedback flow back and forth truthfully and regularly and honestly, and doing something with the feedback so we can continue to evolve that experience. I wouldn't say it's necessarily different than anything we're doing for any other employee that we hire. I just think that the intent is a little bit more defined and collaborative in our approach to dealing with people who have, you know, cognitive or physical disability. And it means we have to be flexible and be willing to change. And like you said, and I really liked that, you said that a really important piece of the puzzle is ask them, find out what they need. I mean, it's just so easy, you know, it's really not rocket science. So really interesting to hear what that feedback is and how, you know, we can partner together and just move forward and get back to the job.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that's rocket science is rocket science. Exactly. Folks, this is not rocket science. Niki, the question I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the things you might do differently moving forward? A little bit different question than we asked Nada, but you've learned some stuff. What would be some of the stuff you would do different as far as how you would write your ads to attract different types of people? What are your thoughts on that?
Gosh, that's a great question. You know, I think the thing I would do different is be more proactive as opposed to reactive. I think a lot of these conversations happened organically because there was a need and we learned about it. But it was all a very kind of reactive approach to it and kind of, you know, a little bit behind the ball. So I think for us moving forward, it's about being proactive in terms of like the committee, for instance, having a committee of a group of people who really champions different pillars related to diversity and inclusion, whether it's gender equality or race and cultural diversity, access and accessibility. So have those group of people that can share events and celebrations and insights or stories to inspire and to educate your team, people who are really passionate about it. In terms of job ads, you know, we've actually modified our job ads within the last couple of years, as opposed to, you know, a standard job duties and responsibilities include, you know, the standard ones that you tend to see so often. We actually reframed our job ads to really attract the candidate and allow them the opportunity to picture themselves in the job. So instead of job responsibilities and, you know, whatever, it will say, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be welcoming guests. You're going to be, you know, checking in and out. You're going to be, and it really allows the candidate to picture themselves in that position that maybe they wouldn't have pictured themselves in before. Yeah.
Yeah, bingo. You know, when you read some job descriptions for companies hiring, it's like, do I need a cape Do I have to fly around the earth in some sort of fashion that makes me Superman or Superwoman or super person? So it's really, I love how you've broken that down for us. Nada and Niki, I'll ask you both. I'll start with Nada. What do you think stops businesses, small or large, and everywhere in between, from being involved in inclusive hiring? What do you think is the barrier for them?
I think probably a combination of factors, whether it be a lack of education or understanding of what the process might entail, paired with a heavy workload, or the inability to figure out how they could create time in their day-to-day schedule to start unfolding this process. Maybe the misconception of what type of paperwork or administrative responsibility might be involved in this, and probably just a need to prioritize internal discussions and get that buy-in and get everybody on board that needs to be on board, which is something that can be very time consuming. I can say, and one thing I want to point out on my bio is my background in working at staffing agencies, where I dealt with many employers, and we had a lot of applicants who would come to us with resources through WorkBC and otherwise, and would be proud to share that information with us and say, tell them, the employer, I have this added benefit. And from our point of view, it was something where there was some hesitancy in sharing that, because we knew that a lot of employers don't really know what that means. And the instant you say it, there's some hesitancy, and it's, I think, very hard for them to articulate. Now, moving and being on the corporate side and being internal, I can say that it can be squashed so easily. It's really not something that is a burden that needs to exist for long term. So I think the perspective change needs to be initiated by champions, and once you get some momentum to shift that mentality, you need to go with it. It's something that you need to long-term invest in, but that's been my experience. And sort of, I was, so passionate about trying to understand the employer point of view when I was on the other side, and I could never fully relate. And now that I'm here, I get it. People are busy in their day-to-day lives, and they don't prioritize this. Once they have one person hired and they see how easy it is, and like you said, the positive effects that this has on everybody, it's a no-brainer. But you have to get there.
You got to get there. Now, before we go to Nada, Micaela, I know this is something that you have some great experience with. You're talking to employers of many different sizes. You're often the conduit to this education. What are some of the conversations that you've had with employers of all sizes, what is their barrier, and tell us a little bit about some of those discussions, please.
I would definitely say that in reality, you don't need to be an expert when you first start out. I think that often stops people from getting started, because they want to ensure that they have everything all figured out. And in reality, it could just be one person taking the time to hire inclusively versus it being organization-wide on day one. Some people do choose to do it within a specific team. We're working with one of our PG organizations right now on their finance team for a construction company, because they realized a lot of their roles might not necessarily be super physically accessible, but the finance team would be accessible for anyone. So it's just carving out different spaces that would work well to get started, and then learning as you go and picking different pieces to tackle one by one, versus overwhelming yourself with trying to fix your recruitment, as well as your communications, as well as your retention, and just taking it like step by step and trying to expand your learning.
Right. There's a phrase, paralyzation by analyzation. And I don't know if either of those are actual words, but you kind of get it. Some organizations are so stuck looking at the data or trying to plan out, like you say, the perfect process. And there is no perfect process. There's no straight line. It's get started. Let's learn along the way and improve like we do every other metric of our business, right? Nada, from the perspective of your organization and your experience, what do you think is stopping employers out there from digging in and just really getting involved and seeing the success your organization has had?
I think this question is for Niki this time.
Oh, sorry, Niki, my apologies. I can't see anybody on the screen.
It's okay,
I can
no
see
problem.
Louise laughing and everything else is blank. Oh my goodness.
Will happily be nada. You know what I was going to say, I don't even think I could add anything more valuable to what Nada and Micaela just shared. I think they hit it right on the head, especially in terms of, you know, feeling like you have to be the expert. And it reminded me of the progress ladder. I'm sure, I don't know if anybody has seen that cartoon of how quickly you can make progress in an organization, but you have one ladder with rungs that are very, very tall. But there's only 3 rungs to get you to the top. And then you have another ladder with several different rungs that are much more easy to get to, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get there. And I think we always assume that it's going to take big leaps, a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of money to make those changes, and because you want the change to be significant, but oftentimes it's not going to get you there any faster. It's those little steps, step by step, that are going to get you there faster.
Yeah. The tortoise versus the hare, right? It's one step at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Nobody has to swallow a whole elephant or make every new hire somebody with a disability or barrier. Micaela, tell us, or no, before I go to Micaela, sorry, let's go back to Nada. What would be some of the financial benefit for your organization when hiring individuals with diverse abilities other than retention and commitment? What are some of the other benefits that you see organization-wide by this practice?
You know, I think, of course, you've touched on it already, but the funding and the support that you can access through, you know, our partners, it was, for us personally, it wasn't our main motivator to pursue this as a sourcing option, but it definitely makes a big impact. And right now, I think, you know, all businesses are struggling. And so that definitely was a nice surprise that we're happy to have access to, and it can be another tool to gain buy-in and support managers who may be working under budgets that are, you know, maybe struggling or a little tighter than normal. So I think from a numbers point of view, that's definitely something that the information is there. Once you access it, it's definitely a pleasant surprise. But from a non-monetary point of view, I think, you know, just the fact that the market right now, I think everybody knows there is such high demand. It's you know, exorbitant. It's really unprecedented in my career, and I've been doing this for many, many years. And it's not BC specific, it's not industry specific, it's not role specific. This is an issue that Canada is experiencing, and in all sectors, in all provinces, at all levels. And that is paired by, you know, the absolute lowest supply that we've seen. And it also, you know, is sort of corroborated by job seeker behavior and the complacency and the lack of interest, or for whatever reason, in getting involved in work, whether it be fear about COVID or you know, work from home versus work in office, or whatever the situation may be. This is another source to find people who are excited to work, who need to work, who come in and not only contribute to the business, but really feel that success alongside everybody else that works with us. And it's just so rewarding to be able to invite people into what we know is such a positive, happy workplace where they can spend 40+ hours a week and, you know, enjoy the outcome of that time spent working hard. So, you know, it's just really, like I said, that ripple effect of how it all works together is the biggest reward of it all. And, you know, we're in business, we're thriving, we're surviving this. This is a very hard time, and we're doing so with the help of all kinds of individuals. And we're really, I think, appreciative of that opportunity. Really feel blessed for that.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Niki, you're in the hotel industry. You have to have people that are on. They're supposed to supply an experience, a Fairmont experience for customers and clients and so forth. tell us about how having people from all walks of life in the organization really helps lift the morale of those around them.
Oh yeah, it's you know, back to Nada's point, that just kind of untapped talent pool where you never want to limit yourself from the talent that's everywhere, and maybe they didn't see it themselves, and that, oh, you know, maybe I think people limit themselves in what maybe they think they can do in terms of a standard like hotel position, or, you know, working at the front desk or whatever it may be. But there's so much opportunity and there's so much that we can accommodate. Like, throw that stuff aside. It's really about you and your ability to want to make connections with people. And I think, you know, every single one of us, I'm sure, you know, we've maybe felt unqualified for a job, or we weren't sure how we could do it. But as soon as that one person takes a moment to say, I know you can do it, and I'm going to help you do it, I'm going to help you succeed, and you're going to be amazing, your spirit just lifts incredibly, and you rise to the occasion, and you become the person that you were hoping that you could be. And I think that that's such a driver and such a motivator in our workforce. And you have people that are just so grateful. They're so grateful and they're so happy to be here. And it's because they're doing something that they didn't think that maybe they could do, but we said, we know you can.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And certainly any of the parents in the audience today, they know that, you know, often encouraging their children is the first step to something that they really succeed in. Now, Micaela, from a resource standpoint, on something that is on the President's Group website, which is accessibleemployers.ca, tell us about a great resource on that website that would help educate some of the employers on the call today, that, you know, they could download another time and dig into, that would really help them and convince some of their team leaders that this is the right strategy.
Yeah, for sure. We have been doing a lot of research over the years and have released a couple different versions of our business case. If you're needing to get senior leadership or the department head that you're working with to buy into this idea of inclusive hiring. We did make a new version for sort of these COVID times, taking into account that the labor market has shifted a lot in the past couple of years now. A lot of the employment stats that we had relied on for previous years have changed, but a lot of the ways that we picture work have also shifted, and that's beneficial. It talks a lot about how remote work has opened up so many opportunities for people. There's people who didn't think that they could do a standard job of 9 to 5 or working in an office because of a variety of factors, and sometimes would self-select out of the employment pool, or just never really seek employment because they didn't think that they could. And so being able to embrace this new form of hybrid work or working from home has really allowed a lot more people to join the labor pool and to access these opportunities. So I'll share our business case in the comments as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Louise, if you have access to the chat, would you be so kind to put my email address in there should people have questions about our WorkBC Assistive Technology Services Program, and our link to our neilsquire.ca website, where they can find the information about the webinars every Wednesday from 12:30 to 1. Again, I'm on Zoom every day, all day, about 3 to 6 hours every day. I've never had this happen. And when we're hosting an event with almost over 40 people and then my system decides to freeze, I find that interesting. Okay, one more question, and I think this could be one of the most important of the day. Let's start with you, Nada. Where do we go from here? What's our next step? What would you encourage, whether it's what would you do in your organization moving forward, and what would you encourage those with us today to do next?
Well, where we're at in our journey, you know, like I said, we're really just scratching the surface of opportunity. So I think for me, I definitely dedicate a large portion of my own time to continuing to drive this. And, you know, as I mentioned, it starts with conversations, and we have many business leaders and departments. And so I'm, systematically going through and using it as an opportunity to sit down and find out the needs of that portion of the business and understand how I can position this sourcing option as a viable option and get that buy-in. So I'm committed to doing that. I'm also doing it with the partnership of my team, who has been very involved in all aspects of this as well. So sort of spreading the word that way. We're reaching out to, one of the things we have upcoming is just working with our partners at Indeed. And we have an event coming up at the end of the month where their marketing evangelist is going to help us understand how we can position our job ads and recreate our job ads. As Niki was mentioning, there, it's a minimum expectation that employers change how they're positioning the job description out there to the public. And I think we understand the difference between a job description and an advertisement. And so we're going to be working with our partners just to become more educated, understand SEO, and make sure that we're accessing as many people as possible. I think beyond factors, and there probably already exist groups where employers can meet regularly, but I'd love to see more partnership amongst employers. I don't think that this is something that is, in silos. We're all together in this economy trying to move beyond our barriers, and I'd love to have partnership and use those partnerships to create more buy-in internally, and also share our experience with more people so they can be inspired and do more at their organizations as well. I know that WorkBC, there's many people who need support, and that list doesn't end, and so I'd love to see as many people helped and as possible. And so if there's anything I can do to drive that, and definitely that's where I see my commitment sort of leading into. Yeah,
bingo, great comment. Niki, what are your thoughts on that?
Such a good question. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the kitchen, but the kitchen is set up where as you progress through different levels of apprenticeship and to becoming a chef, your apron color will actually change, similar to karate, right? So you start as a white belt and you move up to become a black belt. The base level of your apron for an apprentice is blue. And in all of our kitchens, we always wear a blue apron, even the executive chef of the hotel. And the reason why is because you always want to have this mentality where you're constantly learning. You're always the apprentice. There's always something to learn. So I think where do we go from here is just staying humble and understanding that we still have a lot to learn. And step one, recognizing where we're underrepresented. Step two, inviting resources and people in from that community to better educate and understand that representation. And then step three, getting that representation into our hotel, where we don't have to rely on outside resources, where we can actually look internally and have our own leaders and our own staff help educate our team.
This conversation today absolutely inspires me. Micaela, as we wrap up here with the formal part of our presentation, tell us, where do we go from here? What can other employers and individuals on the call today, what can they focus on? What can they intentionally do in their workforce tomorrow to make their place an inclusive employer?
Niki and Nada gave some great ideas. I think just picking one place to start and going from there is the best advice that we would give, is just find some area of your business that you want to start working on, and then add another one, try to get some senior buy-in within your company if you can. But often it just takes starting one place and building up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the only thing I would add to that is, after you've had some success, go tell somebody, share it, evangelize, so that the next employer in your industry, the hotel across the street, knows what you're doing. The other competitors in your industry, Nada, know what you're doing. And let's make this so maybe a few years from now or a decade from now, we're not having to do a big event during September Disability Awareness Month, because everybody's got a great job and an opportunity. And that, that's certainly maybe pie in the sky for some, but each and every day I know the incredibly committed people I work with and the people around the province working for WorkBC are intentionally moving towards those goals. And certainly us at the Neil Squire Society, we live that every day. You know, a saying that I've learned is when it comes to diversity and inclusion, diversity is telling somebody about the party, inclusion is asking them to dance. So let's all get out there and dance in whatever fashion we can, in whatever way works for us. And let's include all the people as it relates to our workforce. And we all know employment is so central to all our lives. And when somebody with a disability gets a job, it just doesn't affect them. It'll impact their whole family unit, maybe their children, their aging parents. It can change the entire trajectory of their family. So inclusive employment, again, is not charity. It's doing the right thing. It's good for your business, and it's a successful business strategy. So now I think we're going to turn it back over to Louise, again, I can't see anybody's screen. I'm all flustered, which is rare for Nate. I don't get flustered often, but we'll turn it back over. And if we have some questions, we're pleased to ask them. And I can't wait to send a letter to the Zoom people to go, what happened? Thank you, everybody.
Nate. Yes, I think I'm taking over the question section. So,
all right. Thanks, Janice.
Yes. Thanks, Nate. Wonderful job as always. And Nada, Micaela, and Niki, so inspiring. It just I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone here. It just warms your heart to know that there is employers, awesome employers that hire thousands of people that are actually working really hard to make a difference for the people with disabilities, or people that, you know, in my life, I had someone in my family many, many years ago that wasn't able to work because of the disability. And nowadays, my sister would have been able to work. So very exciting. So it really warms my heart. So thank you. So anyone here that has questions as far as WorkBC questions, we can turn over any questions to the employers that I'm sure that they'll be able to answer. But if there's any WorkBC questions for employers, we're here to help you with that. So you're welcome to turn on your cameras and unmute or put something in the chat. I think Nate covered so many great questions, as did the employers. So thank you again for such a great presentation. Thank our panelists and Nate for sharing all this great information and some of the successes you've had in hiring persons with disabilities. A lot of great learning for everyone today. So thank you for joining us. And I hope that if we have questions, if you can share your emails and we can forward you some of the questions that might come in later on, that would be great. Thank you again for participating in today's event. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You did an excellent job. So we really appreciate your insight. It's, you know, it's really amazing to hear just such passion from you guys as employers. I can really tell from the ground up that this is something, an initiative that you're all actively working on, and it's something you're really passionate about. So it's going to be wonderful to collaborate with you all moving forward. Thank you so much.